Hey everyone, welcome back to Window Seat Studies. I hope you all are doing well. So we started discussing about immunology, where we first discussed about what is immunity, what are the different immune systems that we possess. We talked about innate immunity, which we have since birth, whereas the adaptive immunity, which we develop over the time due to the exposure to different experiences. So we talked about both of those immune systems, the immune responses. So we also discussed about the cellular and humoral part of those immune systems. So we started discussing about cellular part, the cells of the innate immune system as well as the adaptive immune system. So we discussed that how the all of those immune cells they are developed from the hematopoietic stem cells. So basically, hematopoietic stem cell they get differentiated to form the mature blood cells, and this process of formation of blood is known as hematopoiesis. So we discussed about hematopoiesis in detail. We also discussed about the lineages that will be that will arise from the hematopoietic stem cells, and all those lineages what are the different cells of our immune system that belongs to those lineages. So the myeloid cells as well as the natural killer cells which belong to lymphoid lineages, they are part of the innate immune system, whereas the lymphoid lineage give rise to the B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes, which are the part of adaptive immune systems, right? So we discussed about that. Then we also discussed about different assays to to measure the activity of those cells. We also discussed about the reagents that are used to separate those cells, the PBMCs and the polymorphonuclear cells, right? So that is all we have discussed till now. And from today onwards, we are going to discuss about the organs of immune system, which are basically known as lymphoid organs. So in humans, in mammals, the adult mammals, the immune cells will arise in those adult mammals from the organs which are known as lymphoid organs. So lymphoid organs, they are responsible for generation of the immunocompetent cells. Immunocompetent cells basically they are the cells which gets activated due to the antigenic interaction. So immunocompetent cells are B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes. So those lymphocytes they will be generated and they will get matured in the organs, and that is why those organs are referred as lymphoid organs. Okay, whereas the other cells, the other cells which are part of innate immunity, such as neutrophils, basophils, or eosinophils, they simply develop from the hematopoietic stem cells in the bone marrow, and they get matured in the in the blood. Okay, and they are circulating in all over our body, in the capillaries, in the arteries and veins. Okay, whereas the lymphocytes they get matured, they get generated into the lymphoid organs, and that is why these organs are referred as lymphoid organs. So we are going to talk about lymphoid organs, the types of lymphoid organs. So the lymphoid organs they are categorized into two types: the primary lymphoid organs and the secondary lymphoid organs. So these categories are due to the roles that will be performed by those organs. So the lymphoid organs they are categorized into primary lymphoid organ, and there is other type known as secondary lymphoid organs. Primary lymphoid organs are the organs which are going to participate in the generation and the maturation of immune cells. So immunocompetent cells will be generated here. So this is going to result into generation and maturation of immunocompetent cells. Right? Whereas the secondary lymphoid organ, they are very different from the primary lymphoid organ in the aspect that they are going to result into immune responses. So these are the organs where the immune response will be initiated by the immune cells. So immunocompetent cells will initiate they will initiate the immune response here. So the organs which are the primary lymphoid organs, okay, which are a part, which are recognized as primary lymphoid organs, are the bone marrow, okay, because in the bone marrow, hematopoietic stem cells, they are going to give rise to the immunocompetent cells, okay, the B cells and T cells, where the T cells will not be matured and they will go to the thymus for maturation, and that is why they are referred as T cells, because T belongs to the thymus, right? So the bone marrow and thymus, both of them, they are primary lymphoid organs where the generation and the maturation of immunocompetent cells will be seen, whereas the secondary lymphoid organs are the lymph nodes, okay, where those immune cells, they start their immune responses against the pathogens. Then there's spleen, which is also known as graveyard of RBC, which is very important for maintenance of red blood cells. This is also a part of our immune system, because here the immune responses will be initiated. So the other organ or a tissue which is part of secondary lymphoid organs is the mucosal associated lymphoid tissue. So this is also known as MALT. This mucosal associated lymphoid tissue is also a part of secondary lymphoid organ, because here the immune responses will be seen. So these are the primary lymphoid organs as well as secondary lymphoid organs, but they are present only in the adult mammals. Whereas in the before birth, in the mammals before birth, the immune cells, the generation of immune cells, that is the job of different organs at the different developmental stages. And those organs, those lymphoid organs, which are going to give rise to the immune cells before birth, these are referred as prenatal lymphoid organs. They are referred as prenatal because these are the lymphoid organs which are going to give rise to the immune cells before birth. So during the first week of development, the blood cells will be formed by the embryo sac, the embryo yolk sac, that is going to give rise to the blood cells. Okay, so this is during the first week of the development. Whereas when the fetus is now 3 months old, so in the third month of the development, fetal liver is going to give rise to the immune cells. So fetal liver, I discussed this in previous class where we were discussing about B cells and T cells, that the prenatally fetal liver is going to result into generation of B cells, right? We discussed that. And whereas in the adult cells, bone marrow is going to generate the B cells. So during the seventh month of the development, spleen is going to take over the job of blood formation. So this is during the seventh month of development, while fetal liver is generating the cells during the third month. Whereas the once the baby is born, this job is transferred to the bone marrow. Okay. So these are the prenatal lymphoid organs, which does the job of bone marrow, the formation of blood cells, formation of immune cells before birth. Okay, so so let's now in today's class I gave you a kind of introduction about the lymphoid organs, and today we are going to discuss about thymus in detail, in how the thymus, where it is located, and how does it give rise to the B cells and sorry, not B cells, how the maturation of T cells is seen over there. So thymus is okay. So let's first know about where this organ is located. The thymus, this is actually a bilobed structure. It is a bilobed organ which is located in the cavity, or which is known as mediastinum. So these are the lungs. Okay, right? So these are our lungs, and there exists a cavity between those lungs, and this cavity is known as mediastinum. Okay, and in this cavity, our heart is located. So in this cavity, this is the heart. Okay, So between the two lungs, heart is located, and to in front of, so anteriorly there are ribs, and posteriorly there will be your spinal cord. So in over the top of the heart, so here particularly here exists thymus. So anatomically, when we write about location, we write it as it is present anteriorly, superiorly in the mediastinum, on top of the heart. Okay. So if you don't know about the planes of our, the anatomical planes that we have, the three planes, let me just discuss it here. So let's assume that this particular cube, okay, this is this is your body. Let's assume that this is your body, and this particular part is your face. Okay, so this is this if this is face, imagine this in three dimension. If this is face, this is going to be the part of your back of the head, right? And here are your legs I- on the downside, and these are your hands. Okay, so this is a 3D diagram of your so imagine yourself in three dimension as a cube. So if I, if I cut this cube in the middle portion horizontally, this particular plane, on it, okay, this particular plane. If I cut it in this particular plane, it is going to generate two segments, the first and second one. So this plane is known as transverse plane. Okay, and the above part is known as superior part, while the below part is known as inferior part. Okay, so this is the transverse plane, and imagine if I cut this cube in between, okay, like this. Okay, so this particular plane is the plane for cutting. So if I cut this particular cube in this plane, okay, so this particular plane is known as median plane. Okay, this has also other name known as sagittal plane. So this median plane or sagittal plane is going to do the two halves which are known as lateral halves. So this is the lateral sides of you. So the right and left sides will they are also referred as lateral sides. Okay, so this is going to do the lateral segments, the left one and the right one. Okay, so this is the sagittal plane. Whereas if I cut this cube in this particular, this in this particular plane, which is going to do the two halves, this, okay, so this particular plane is known as sagittal plane. If I cut it in this plane, okay, this particular plane, so it is going to create one segment and two segment, which is known as anterior and posterior segment. Means imagine cutting through this cube in this particular vertical section. So this vertical plane is known as coronal plane. Okay, which is going to do the two parts of this cube. This particular part, which is present anteriorly, which is known as anterior part, and this particular part, which is present on the back side, it is known as posterior part. Okay, so if this plane, this particular plane, a vertical plane, okay, this one was transverse plane was horizontal plane like this, okay, and whereas this particular plane is vertical plane. Okay, so let me just draw it here. It is a vertical plane. So this particular plane is known as coronal plane. And this coronal plane is going to do the two halves of this cube. One will be, this particular will be anterior one, and this will be the posterior one. So now you can easily imagine the thymus location. So thymus is present anteriorly. Okay, this means when you do the two halves of yourself, only the front part where your mouth is situated, where your eyes are, that front part, in that front half will be the thymus, and it is present superiorly, means it is above your, it is above your diaphragm, it is above your navel region. So it is, it is present in the mediastinum, which is a cavity between the lungs. So it is right at your chest. So it is present superiorly posteriorly on the top of heart, right? So you can easily imagine if you have the idea about the different planes. So, well, I'll be discussing about this in detail in the animal physiology, but I just give you an idea about the location of thymus. So thymus is basically, it is a bilobed organ. So this is a bilobed structure, as it has two lobes, and it is present over the heart, on the top of the heart. So this thymus is pinkish gray colored soft tissue, and it shows atrophy over the as the individual ages. Means this thymus is almost 30 grams in infants, and when the baby grows up, the weight of thymus decreases, and it just becomes 3 gram in adults. So in infants, this tissue weighs 30 gram, whereas in adults, this tissue weighs 3 gram. So over the time, as the individual ages, there is seen the reduction in the thymus mass. In the thymus decreases in the size, in the weight, and that particular phenomena is known as atrophy of thymus, or this is also known as involution. Okay, so this is atrophy. So over the on- as the individual ages, the thymus tissue will be replaced by the fatty tissue, and this is how the thymus mass will be reduced. And in this 3 gram of the thymus which is present in adult, only 2 gram, almost 2 gram, is the functional thymus, which is going to do its job of generation of immune cells. Okay, so this introductory stuff about thymus. And in the thymus, the T cells, the 95 to 99% of the T cells die in the thymus, because thymus is the site where the T cells, they are going to get matured. They are also known as thymocytes. Thymocytes are the cells of the thymus. So the thymocytes, they undergo maturation and they form T cells in this particular area, and that is why thymus is known as the school of T cells. Okay, because here the T cells, they are going to get matured into naive T cells. Okay, so naive T cells are the ones which are fully developed T cells, but they have never undergone any antigenic interaction. So imagine this as an example. So let me give you an example. Imagine this particular phenomena as you being in your teenage stage. So when you are a teenager, so okay, when you are a baby, okay, so you are immature when you are a baby. You do not really know how to talk, you do not really know how to walk, right? So you are immature. But when you are a teenager, you are a fully functional person. Okay, a teenager is fully functional person. And but what is the difference between the teenager and adult? The difference is that the teenager is not exposed to certain experiences. It cannot handle the hardships of the world. So teenager is fully functional. It has all, it can walk, it can talk, it has two hands, just like an adult, and it is fully developed just like an adult. But the basic difference between a teenager and adult is that any adult individual, it is exposed to multiple experiences, and that is why it can work, and it can handle the hardships in this world, it can handle the cruelty of this world. Whereas teenager is innocent, it is not even though it is fully functional, it hasn't been exposed to any kind of experiences, and that is why we can also call them innocent, or we can also call them naive. In the same way, the cells, the T cells, they are, they get matured, they have fully functional receptors. They start expressing fully functional receptors in the thymus, and this process is known as maturation process. But they are not activated yet. They haven't seen antigen in their life till now. So that activation will be done in the secondary lymphoid organs, not in the primary lymphoid organ. Thymus is a part of primary lymphoid organ, so here only maturation of T cells will be seen. Okay, so thymus is going to result into T cell maturation. Okay, development and T cell maturation, which will result into expression of the T cell receptors. So T cell receptors will be present over the T cells when they are in the thymus, but this T cell hasn't been exposed to any kind of antigenic interaction, and that is why these T cells are known as naive T cells. So, in short, we can say that in the thymus, which is a school of T cells, the thymocytes, the T cells, from the immature T cells, They get converted into naive T cells. Okay, and then in the secondary lymphoid organs, this naive T cells will get, they will be exposed to the antigens and they will be fully activated, and that what we call as the fully functional T cells. Okay, so I hope this part is clear to you all. How what are naive T cells? So in the same way, naive B cells are also the cells which have not been exposed to the antigenic interaction. So thymus being a part of lymphoid organ, it is going to result into the maturation of the T cells. So the 95 to 99% of the T cells, they die in the thymus due to the self-reactivity or no reactivity to the antigen. So what happens is that there's a phenomena known as clonal selection or clonal deletion. I will be talking about this in the T cell part in detail. Here, I just want to introduce those terms to you. So, clonal selection or deletion is a phenomena where the 95 to 99% of the T cells, they are rejected or they die by the apoptotic mechanisms because they cannot either, they are reacting to the self cells, means the own cells, okay, the cells of individual. The job of immune cells is not to react to self cells, right? They possess tolerance. They need to have tolerance characteristics, means the cells of our immune system should not react to self cells. So clonal selection or deletion is a phenomena where the T cells, the T cells which are reacting, which are showing reactivity to the self antigens, or which are showing no reactivity to the non self antigens, such cells will be rejected. Okay, and this particular phenomena is known as clonal selection or clonal deletion. The cells which are reacting to non self antigen will be selected, known as clonal selection, and if the cells they are reacting to the own or self antigens, they will be deleted. So this is in short what clonal selection or clonal deletion means. I will be talking about this in detail in the lectures about T cells. So if the T cells in the thymus they show self reactivity, means they are reacting to the self antigens, or they show no reactivity to the non self antigens, so by the process of apoptosis they will be discarded, and this is known as clonal selection or the clonal deletion. Okay, so let me show you a diagram schematic of thymus. Okay, so I've drawn the schematic. So here you can clearly see, so just a second, let me adjust it here. Hmm. So this is a schematic of thymus, okay, thymus tissue. So here you can see this particular part is capsule. So this capsule gives rise to the trabeculae. So those trabeculae, they are, so this is a trabecula. Okay, so those trabeculae they give give rise to the partitions in the thymic tissue. So here you can see different segments. So these are giving rise to the different segment, different parts in the thymic tissue. So and even in this trabeculae, the blood vessels are present. So these are the blood vessels, and well, this is a cross section of the thymus tissue. So here you can see there are two parts of the thymus known as cortex and medulla. So cortex is the outer part. It is referred as the cortex, while the inner part of this tissue is known as medulla. Okay. So this is the medulla and this is the cortical region. So in the cortical regions exist the epithelial cells as well as the nerve cells. So the nerve cells and that are a part of the cortex, they are actually providing nourishment to the thymocytes. So these blue ones, these are the thymocytes, and the thymocytes they are present both in cortex as well as in medulla. But in the cortex region, they are undergoing division. So here you can see the dividing thymocytes, and they are very densely packed in the cortical region. Whereas in the medulla, they are loosely packed, and in the medulla, they are matured. So immature thymocytes, they are present in the cortex, whereas in the medulla, they are the mature thymocytes. So nerve cells, they are present in the cortex, and the immature densely packed thymocytes, they are also present in the cortical region. Then there are other cells which are present in this tissue, such as cortical epithelial cell as well as the medullary epithelial cells. Again, there are, there are macrophages, and then there also exist the dendritic cells both in cortex as well as the medullary in the medullary region. So these epithelial cells, macrophages, and dendritic cells, which are present in both cortex and the medulla, they are helping in the maturation of thymocytes. So these are really, really important because they are going to secrete the cytokines, which are going to result into the maturation of those thymocytes into the naive T cells. Okay. Then there also exists a structure known as Hassel's corpuscles. So Hassel's corpuscles, this part of thymus, this secretes, this secretes a cytokine molecule, is the cytokine molecules known as TSLP. So let me write it here separately for you. So this Hassel's corpuscle, this secrete TSLP, which is also known as thymic stromal lymphopoietin. This is thymic stromal lymphopoietin. So this is actually the cytokine signaling molecule. So this is going to, be important for the maturation of T cells, and this is also important for development of T regulatory cells. Okay, so this particular cytokine, which is released by the Hassel's corpuscles, this is important for the development of the T cells. So this Hassel corpuscles, this is only found in the medullary region. So this is an important point, that Hassel's corpuscle, this is going to secrete TSLP, thymic stromal lymphopoietin, and it is situated in the medulla. Okay, so this is how all of those structures, the Hassel corpuscles, all of those cells such as epithelial cells, macrophages, and the dendritic cells which are present in this tissue, all of them, they are together going to help into the development of the T cells, into the maturation of T cells. Okay. Then if the surgical removal of the thymus is done, means in the thymectomy, okay, in the thymectomy, this will, if this thymus is surgically removed, this will result into a dramatic decrease of T cells, because even though even though bone marrow, in the bone marrow there are hematopoietic stem cells, they are going to give rise to the precursor cells, but the T cells won't be matured in the thymus. Due to the absence of thymus, T cells will not get matured, and that is why there will be dramatic decrease of the T cells in the individual's body. So if the thymus is removed due to surgery, then that will result into dramatic decrease of T cells, and that causes a syndrome known as DeGeorge syndrome. So when the DeGeorge syndrome, okay, D DeGeorge syndrome, this syndrome is actually a congenital syndrome, and this is due to the deletion of a particular part present on the chromosome 22. So, if the chromosome 22 part gets deletion of 22 chromosome Q11.2. So this is particular region. If this gets deleted, this is present on the 22nd chromosome. So if this particular region get deleted, it results into DeGeorge syndrome. So well, in the DeGeorge syndrome, this is due to the dramatic decrease in the T cells. So this is a congenital disease, and this is also a genetic disease with a syndrome where the number of T cells decreases dramatically. So this is how the thymus, which is a primary lymphoid organ, is going to help into the maturation of T cells. So in next lecture, we'll discuss about bone marrow, and we'll also have a separate lectures for discussing the secondary lymphoid organs. So till then, see you. Bye bye.